Welcome to Life Church here at Cornerstone, and it's different than Sunday mornings. I think, yeah. I threw a curveball at you. Oh. So if this is your first Friday night with us, you know, it's a little different than Sunday mornings. Format's a little different. The first night we did it and stopped singing after 2 songs. We were like, whoa, what's going on? But what we like to do is we like to hear God's story in people's life. And so we just are getting to know people in our church. We're a church family, and we're just getting to know each other. So up here with me is Dave Wagner.
Hello.
And hi, Dave.
Dave's not here. For us old hoary heads who can remember that one.
You're going to have to tell me about that one later.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
See, told you. He doesn't remember.
I'm usually pretty good on that stuff. So Dave, you're a local guy, right?
Well, technically I was born and raised in Vallejo, yeah.
Well, that's close enough.
Well, there's always that Napa Vallejo thing, so. Especially back in the old days. From what I understand, in the 40s, and if you said you were from Vallejo, they thought you were a tough guy because Vallejo had a reputation.
I'm not from around here, so I have no idea. I don't know. I just know I don't go to Vallejo that often. So you're from Vallejo originally, but you didn't stick around, right? You joined the Navy. Was it right after high school?
Yeah, right after high school. I born and raised in Vallejo. My dad owned a meat market in Vallejo, so I was raised in the meat trade since I was 8 years old. And that's what I did for 20 years of my life, was cut meat. But, I went to high school in Vallejo. And then, we're talking, I graduated in 1968, so we're talking, the height of the Vietnam War. In those days, for you younger folks, there was a draft. In other words, you had no say. You put your name in, you were forced to put your name in the selective service lottery, and if your name was drawn, you had to go into the military. And most of the time you would be chosen, and with Vietnam, you'd be chosen either go into the Army 90% of the time, and 90% of that time you'd be sent to the jungle, So I joined the Navy because I had no intention. The only other way you could get out of the draft was to go to college and get a student deferment. But I had no intentions of going on to school, so I joined.
There was always Canada.
Yeah, right.
No, that'd be so.
That never came into my mind.
And I wasn't implying that it would. It was a joke. So you joined the Navy. And so where did you serve, and how long were you in the Navy?
Well, I joined for a total of 4 years, and I spent most of my time out of Long Beach, California, big naval base, naval shipyard down there, just like Mare Island in Vallejo used to be a naval shipyard, big one down there. And so I was actually, in 4 years, I was on 3 different ships out of 4 years. And out of that 4 years, I actually only made 1 Western Pacific cruise, which meant going from the west coast of the United States over to Southeast Asia. So technically I'm a Vietnam veteran because the ship I was on sat a quarter mile offshore and lobbed in shells for gunfire support. So we'd be sitting offshore in the South China Sea, and I was on a destroyer. The first ship I got onto was straight out of the Navy. Put me into schools, and they trained me to be what was called an interior communications electrician, which basically we took care of all the indicating equipment within the ship. In other words, intercoms, telephones, sound-powered phones. We had indicating equipment from fire alarms and paint lockers to after steering at the back part of the ship to wind speed and direction indicators on top of the mast to speed indicators down in the bilge. So we were all over the ship repairing and maintaining equipment. So the first ship I was on, for Vietnam, they recommissioned one of the Iowa-class battleships, the USS New Jersey, for Vietnam, and I was sent to her after A school. And she had made one tour of Vietnam already, which you talk to any Marine who was over there, and then Big J saved their rear ends several times by those big 16-inch shells. We're talking about ammunition that's 5 feet tall, weighs as much, it's 2,000 pounds that they can shoot for 20 miles out of those big 16-inch guns. So I was on her, and at 19 years old, 18, 19 years old, I was impressed because it was a huge ship. But given the politics of the time and de-escalation and costs of the war, they decided to decommission the New Jersey after her only being in commission for less than 2 years, which was sad, but that's politics. So then I got sent to school in Chicago. And they they trained me to fix what are called mechanical gyro compasses, which are no longer in existence because everything's electronic nowadays. But this was a device that was a compass, but it used a spinning gyroscope, a big wheel that was just spinning at thousands and thousands of RPMs to be stable, and so that's how it worked. And so we were trained to work on those. And then they sent me back to Long Beach to a repair ship. So I was on a repair ship for 2 years, repairing mechanical gyro compasses on the other ships around in Long Beach. And then they decommissioned that ship. So that was 2 ships I decommissioned. And
You were the ship killer.
Yeah, I was. I was. Yeah, that's what we call it. There was actually 3 of us guys who went from the New Jersey to school to the repair ship, and we called ourselves the decommissioners after that. But anyway, I digress. So then I get shipped, put on, like the month after we decommissioned and went through the ceremony and everything, less than that, I walked across the pier and got on a destroyer, which was a World War class destroyer from World War II that had gone through a couple of retrofits, but a few weeks later, we took off for Southeast Asia, and we were gone for 9 months. And so then came back to that and spent the rest of my time on board that ship in the Navy.
So and it was after that cruise, right? But still in the Navy that God started to work on you, right? Is that my understanding?
Yeah, that's that. You know, us old guys can identify when you're in your 20s. You're always searching. You know, you're searching for meaning in life, and I was raised Catholic, so I knew about God. Went to Mass on Sundays, went to catechism classes where I got slapped by a priest once, but needless to say.
Did you deserve it?
Yeah, because I was speaking out of turn. But anyway,
you gotta ask.
Yeah. So I was raised Catholic, and my brother kept me going to Mass. He was 2 years older than me than I would have liked to, because we worked for my dad in his meat market, and my brother worked after school also in high school, but I only had to work Saturdays, so we both had to work on Saturdays. So Sunday was our day off, so we got into surfing, so we threw the boards in the back of the pickup truck, would drive to St. Basil's, go to Mass, and then take off to the beach. You know, so that was my experience that way. But
so you were raised in a Catholic church, but while you were in the Navy, God started working in your life in a real way.
You know, I remember, you know, you're searching for meaning in life. You know, what is this life about? I remember we were, when I was on that destroyer, we got stationed in Hong Kong for 2 weeks. The ship became what they call a station ship, brought in all the messages for all the other ships in the area, because Hong Kong was a good rest and relaxation, or R&R port for the Navy. And the guys in my division threw me my birthday party. I remember, you know, I was living the life of, you know, what do you do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? And they threw me this party, and after the party, I walked out, and I was thinking, you know, there's got to be more to life than wine, women, and song. You know, I mean, and I went for this long walk. And so I started searching, on board ship. You know, they had small libraries and stuff, so I checked out books on Eastern meditation, on yoga, and stuff like that. So I was searching for a meaning in life. And then something happened. The destroyer got back, went into the yards, which means it wasn't going to go out to sea for a while because it needed repairs. And so I went home on leave, and I met my best high school buddy. He was going to UC Davis at the time. We went out had coffee and stuff like that. And he shared Jesus with me. And he found Jesus in college. And this is 1971-ish. And at that time, us hoary heads will remember, there was a big end times thing going on. And one of the one of the well-read novels at the time in Christian circles was The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. And so my college buddy, my high school buddy, friend in college, he recommended I read the book. And so he shared Jesus with me. I didn't accept the Lord then. He just told me what he found. He said, you ought to read this book. I go, okay. So I went back to Long Beach. So I went into a secular bookstore. I didn't even know there was such a thing as Christian bookstores, and found the book. And so I bought it, and I'm reading it. I'm reading it on board ship. And I remember reading the whole book, and I remember laying in my rack, or my bed, the mattress only this thick, but anyway, we called them racks. I'm laying in my rack late at night, and they had little fluorescent lights that you could read by. And I'm finishing the book, and at the end of the book, Hal Lindsey must have said something. He said, whose side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on Satan's side, or do you want to be on the Lord's side? And I said, man, I want to be on the Lord's side, And I don't know whether there was a sinner's prayer written in the back of the book like some books have, but I remember asking Jesus or God or something into my life laying in that rack, laying in the Navy, and that was how I received Christ. And shortly thereafter, I used to read Time magazine quite a bit. And at that particular time, the American Bible Society was advertising free Bibles, and they'd use celebrity pictures, like Sonny and Cher, and look who reads the Bible, And so I sent away for a free Revised Standard Bible, and it was just me and a Bible for several months. And I'd talk to people. They'd see me, reading it, and I'd talk to people on board ship, but I was, young Christian, just me, the Bible, and Jesus, basically. So one day, in those days, when you went off and on board naval vessels, you could not wear civilian clothes. However, the last couple years I was in the Navy, they relaxed that rule. But technically, you couldn't wear civilian clothes, so they had what are called locker clubs. So us sailors would, go off in our uniforms, go to locker clubs, change into our civilian clothes, our civvies, and pretend we weren't sailors, even though we had short hair, But so I was going to a locker club, and I walked in, I was carrying my Bible, and this guy was on the steps, and he goes, "What's that you're carrying?" I said, "It's a Bible." He goes, "You a Christian?" I go, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm a Christian. He goes, "Wow, so am I." He goes, "You want to go to a Bible study?" I go, "Bible study? What's that? I'm raised Catholic. I have no idea. All I know is Mass. And I never set foot in a Protestant church, because if you're Catholic, you set foot in a Protestant church, it's a mortal sin, right?" So anyway, sure. I was open for anything. So he says, "Well, just, kind of hang around here. There's some of us guys are going to go, and we're going to this is in Long Beach, California, SoCal. We're going to go up to West Covina for this Bible study. But somebody's going to pick us up." So this car pulls up, and there's this girl driving it. It's a little 70s Toyota Corolla, and 7, 8 of us sailors pile in this Toyota Corolla. No seatbelt laws in those days. Turns out the driver of the car is my wife, Jan. That's how I met her. She's driving us to a Pentecostal Bible study in West Covina.
She told me the other day that she just loves Toyotas, so I knew it was her when she said it.
So that was my first experience with, Protestant Bible study kind of thing. And Jan was going to Long Beach State at the time. And when I met her, she was dating someone else. But then I guess that broke up. I guess, I liked her. Who knows? You know how you're 20 and your feelings. And so we started seeing one another. And I don't remember if maybe she remembers, if we were going to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa then, or whether it was later on. But that's how we met.
That's awesome. That's the best place to meet somebody.
What, at a Bible study?
No, in a Toyota Corolla.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. A Bible study, awesome. And if it's in a Toyota Corolla, I guess that works. So God brought you to faith kind of on your own, but then he didn't leave you there. He brought you into a church family. Flash forward to kind of now, and you're part of this church family. How long have you been part of Cornerstone? And the kind of the short version of it.
Well, probably almost 20 years. I mean, we didn't start when Cornerstone started. Jan and I got married down in Long Beach. That story happened. I got out of the Navy, said, see you later. I'm going to take off. So I took off, and I was into bicycling back then, so I bicycled cross country to Michigan and stayed with relatives for a year in Michigan. Still Christian. Actually got involved in the Catholic charismatic movement back then. We're talking 1972. And got my cousin, my one close female cousin was going to an all-Catholic girls' high school, so I got close with some of the girls and a couple of the younger nuns and stuff. So anyway, I got back into Catholicism when I was back there, to put it so. So anyway, so I came back out to California, and in the meantime, I not having really any strict fellowship and stuff, I backslidden. And so I got back, I bought a vehicle, decided to travel around and see my old Navy buddies and old friends. So I went down to SoCal, and seeing a couple Navy buddies, I actually talked to Jan, saw her, and I think that's one of the reasons that really attracted me to her to eventually ask her to marry me, is because she called me on the carpet. She goes, "You're backslidden. You've walked away from the Lord." And I called myself a Christian. It's what. So
I don't know what that means.
Okay,
no, I'm just kidding.
But so she called me on the carpet for that, and it really caused me to think. And so I came back to Vallejo, which was my home base, living with my parents, and I just sought the Lord, and was going to a Protestant church in Vallejo, that I found out through some friends or something, and the Lord, I just seeking the Lord, and the Lord told me to move down to Long Beach. So I packed up my 1969 Volkswagen bus with the desk I made in 9th grade, the stereo system I bought overseas in Hong Kong in the Navy, and my German Shepherd. That's a long story. And we moved down to Long Beach. And Jan was dating somebody else at that time. But again, long story short, she broke it off with him, and the Lord brought us together, and we wound up getting married down there. And we went to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, several times. And then in Long Beach, there was the leader of the college group that she was attending was actually a lay minister at a Presbyterian church in Long Beach. So we started going there because there were some young people there, and he that leader was there, and he taught verse by verse. The head pastor was, anyway. So we decided to get married, and it was a nice little small church, very picturesque, and we said, well, we all get married here. And so the older ladies in the church said, well, if you become members, you get a discount on renting the church. So we became Presbyterians and got a discount on renting the church. So we got married in 1974 and wound up staying down in Southern California in Long Beach for a couple years, and then moved back up here in 1976 with our 6-month-old son. Moved lock, stock, and barrel. And again, no seatbelt laws in those days. We tucked our 6-month-old son in a U-Haul truck on the passenger side on the floorboards.
So before you incriminate yourself any further,
yes.
I
wasn't breaking any laws back then. I got pictures.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know about.
They didn't have seatbelt laws. We took our son home from the hospital in Jan's arms. There weren't any car seat laws.
No, I'm just kidding. So, but because of time, I'm going to flash forward you. So you guys eventually moved to Napa, joined up with Cornerstone about 20 years ago. So how do you serve around? I just want, how do you serve around here? Because people see you all the time, and it's like, if you want to know about the men's retreat, and then Dave waves his hand. So what do you do to serve in the Lord as part of this church? Well, as part of this church,
as he said, I mainly head up the men's study, men's ministry, so to speak. I got started doing that because when we first started coming here, there wasn't a men's study And in my previous manifestations with different churches in Napa Valley, I had taught home fellowships before, and so I knew Vince. I didn't really know Bill, so I asked Vince, I said, can I start a men's study? And so he asked Bill, and I don't remember the exact details, and he said, yeah, sure. So I started a men's study, and so I've been teaching that for almost as long as I've been here. And then other things, I just serve. I serve, wherever there's opportunity, in a sense. I did Sunday school at other churches, so I helped out with VBS. I also consider I have a gift of helps, especially since I've been retired. I've been helping a lot of people with different things like moving and things like that, being involved in their lives. And then since I have retired in the last 3 years, I took over the maintenance and minor repair stuff that needs to be done around here. So whatever God leads me to do, I do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, here's the truth. So Dave came to Mexico with us last spring, and there's I don't know about NASCAR or most things to do with cars, but I think there's this thing called the pace car, and Dave was that for us. We're me and John Vargas and some young guys, and he's running circles around us. We're just trying to keep up with him, because he's in good shape for one, but he also just knows how to do work, and I was learning from him. It was great, and so if you're a dude, Dave, we're gonna be doing life group signups in a couple weeks. Dave's gonna have a men's life group. We've got the men's retreat we do every year. If a dude didn't sign up and still wants to go, is that possible?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's possible. They always have room at the last minute. Can't guarantee where you're going to sleep, but there's
your guy
room.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So if you're a guy or know a guy that hasn't, isn't like, I haven't signed up, we can get you in. You may be sleeping on the carpet, but we'll find a place for you, and we'll probably find a nicer place than the carpet. So this is Dave Wagner, and I just wanted you guys to know him a little bit more. And so anyway, Dave, pray for the rest of our night for us, and then we'll go forward.
Father, we just come before you right now, Lord, and we just wish to honor you and praise you and thank you for this community of Cornerstone and this community of life groups that we're going to start up, Lord. I pray that each one of us finds the place that you want us in, Father. So God, just this evening, I pray that you would move and touch us with your Spirit, that you would fill us to overflowing, help us to worship you, help us to understand how to love our neighbor today again, and help us to, as we close in worship, to really just worship you, Lord. So we thank you and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Why don't you take a moment to say hi to the people around you. As you were coming in, if you didn't grab a copy of the notes, they are available back at the door. So Pastor Bill's got those ready for tonight's teaching, and just say hi to the people around you.